In this special effect lesson, we're going to go ahead and take a step into a new direction here. We're going to use fog, but this time we're going to confine it to a particular area known as a gizmo, or officially the atmospheric apparatus. Now what I've got here, my perspective view, is it's just as simple. When I render, I have a blue background, and I'm going to show you how to make a cloud, but this cloud is going to be the same lesson for confining any particular atmospheric event or effect. So to do that, we need to begin by putting in something called a gizmo. If you go into Create, next to Lights we have the Helpers button. Once you select Helpers, we have several different helpers that we will use in Animation 2. But in the pull-down menu, underneath Standard, we have Atmospheric Apparatus. And notice we have 3 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create one of each. I'm going to put a box, I'm going to put a cylinder, I'm going to put a sphere. Now you notice I have a wireframe mesh. I do a render, you see nothing. These are invisible. They do not render, but they're like glass containers, so to say, which we can put the effect inside and control its width, length, height, depth, as well as animate these things. So I'm going to go into Rendering, Environment, and underneath Atmosphere we're going to add a volume fog. Okay, not fog, but volume fog. And that's going to give us the options here to make some various changes, but the first one is to pick a gizmo. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick the box. Now before changing any other effects here, I'm going to go ahead and do a render. And what you're going to notice is you have this vague set of clouds kind of confined to the gizmo area. Now to show you, to give you a better look at that, I'm going to darken my sky so that the light will actually, the white clouds will contrast, and there we go, we have a darker blue sky, and we can see that we've confined those clouds to that area. Now some of the various settings we have are to change the color of the fog, fog the background, apply the density settings, and here we have noise again, regular, fractional, or turbulence. Another key factor here is this soften gizmo edges. And the higher number you have here, the more it's going to soften the edges around the actual atmosphere so it doesn't look so much like it's in a box. Now this isn't too bad, actually it kind of looks like a cloud. But if I was to go and I hit 1 and do a render, now notice it kind of softens it to the point where you can almost not see the cloud. So I would have to up the size of my gizmo to make the clouds thicker. Now the important thing to know is that for every gizmo you need a new atmosphere. This one here is saying that this volume fog is applied to box. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Add Volume Fog again. And this one, my gizmo, is going to be the cylinder. And I'm going to add one more fog. And that gizmo is going to be the sphere. So now when I render, I have 3 different gizmos out here with 3 different sets of volume fog. Now when they're all together they don't look too bad, but let's go in and maybe change this one to green, almost like a green smoke, and this one we can make it red. Now when we do a render, you'll see that all 3 gizmos have different effects. You have the green, the red, and the white. So you can go in and make various changes, adding noise, turbulence, changing the density, size, and whatnot. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete our last 2 and go back to this fog. In fact, I'm going to delete all 3 gizmos. I'm going to go take a sphere. And the reason why I pick a sphere is because spheres are the closest thing to a cloud that we're going to get. But I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out in a couple different directions, almost like an M&M type shape. Now I'm going to go ahead back into my environment, and I still have my fog set. I'm going to pick the new gizmo, and it's telling me sphere gizmo 1, and now I do a render, and I have this cloud look effect. Now there's several different things I can do here. I could cut my density down so that the cloud doesn't look as thick. I could go ahead and change my gizmo ends here a little bit. Even changing the perspective will make the cloud look a little different. So say we're on the ground looking up at the cloud. Now we're starting to break it up a little bit now. I also like to change some size here, maybe take that down to 10, which is going to make my clouds a little bigger. Maybe when I even go backwards there to 35. Upping it, making it bigger. And there, we're a little bit more blotchy clouds going on. Now another cool effect that we can approach here is maybe by upping the density. Sometimes when you look at a cloud, the top of the cloud is white, but underneath the cloud is like a dark gray. Well, to achieve that effect, I'm going to go ahead and hold Shift and move my gizmo and create a second set of clouds above it. Now that's made a second gizmo that holds the same atmosphere, but I'm going to go and add another volume fog. And with that volume, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a dark grayish look. I'm going to go ahead and select the new gizmo, which is going to be the lower of the two gizmos. And I'm going to try to adjust my density and size so that it matches the original one. And when I do a render, now what I get is the white clouds, but then I have the dark cloud kind of underneath. Now, again, you may have to go in and play with some of the different various settings to achieve that. It may look kind of fake the first few times you're playing around with the settings, but as you add some darkness in there, it will give your clouds a little bit better effect, a little bit more realistic effect. So I can go up and even adjust some of the gizmo edges, and that actually takes the gray away. So this is an approach to clouds, and the reason why this is a good one is because we can animate, keyframe the movement of clouds, as well as they will stay still while our camera is moving around the scene.